Good day. We are down to the last topic of your midterm exam, which is the pleura and diaphragm. So first, let's define your pleura. So it is a serous membrane subdivided into your visceral and parietal pleura. So the visceral pleura, it is the one that covers the lung and forms your interlobar fissures. And then the parietal pleura naman, it is the one that lines the mediastinum, diaphragm, and your thoracic cage. And in between this visceral and parietal pleura is your pleural space. So this is a potential space which contains a small amount of fluid of about 2 to 5 ml. So your pleural space, it normally contains 2 to 5 ml of fluid collection, but if it exceeds 5 ml, so it became your pleural effusion. So anatomically, here is the location of your parietal and visceral pleura. So your parietal pleura is the one that covers the mediastinum, the thoracic cage, and the diaphragm, while your visceral pleura, it is the one that covers the lung. And this is the origin of your interlobar fissures, your major and minor fissures. And then here is the area of your pleural space, which normally contains 2 to 5 ml of fluid. So the following are the radiologically detectable manifestations of pleural diseases. So it includes your effusion, thickening, and calcification. The pleural effusion, it forms when imbalance occurs between the formation and reabsorption. It can be bloody, chylous, purulent, or serous. And depending on what causes your pleural effusion, it can be transudative or exudative. Again, your pleural effusion, it is a collection of fluid in the pleural space. Okay, so it is a collection of fluid between your visceral and your parietal pleura. Okay, so this is your pleural effusion. So we have a specific causes of pleural effusion. First is your congestive heart failure. It is the most common and usually presents with transudative pleural effusion. It is typically bilateral and larger on the right. While your parapneumonic effusion naman, it is the effusion associated with pneumonia. And your peripheral parenchymal infection results to your exudative type of pleural effusion. So take note, pag congestive heart failure, usually transudative. Kapag parapneumonic, exudative type of pleural effusion. And kapag parapneumonic, usually secondary to your Staphylococcus aureus and your gram-negative pneumonias. And then last is your empyema, which results when parenchymal infection extends into your pleural space. So it is your empyema. And it is most often appear as loculated pleural fluid collection, secondary to bacterial pneumonia, septic emboli, and lung abscess. And in the natural history of parapneumonic effusion, it presents with 3 stages. The first is the exudative stage. I showed you earlier, I told you earlier that your parapneumonic effusion usually presents with exudative type of pleural effusion. So the first one is the exudative stage. Then the stage 2 is the fibrinopurulent pleural fluid collection, which produces loculations. And the stage 3 or the later stage develops 2 to 3 weeks after initial fluid formation, characterized by pleural fibrosis and dystrophic pleural calcification following resolution of your infection. And then it also has other causes, which includes neoplasm, stroma, collagen, vascular and autoimmune disease, and abdominal disease. So in cases of neoplasm, secondary to your lung, breast, pelvis, gastric CA, and lymphoma, it results from pleural involvement by tumor or from lymphatic obstruction from the parietal pleura to the mediastinal nodes. And usually kapag neoplasm yung cause, it is exudative and bloody. Then also it can be caused from trauma, collagen, vascular and autoimmune disease, and abdominal disease such as your pancreatitis. And then kapag pancreatitis, usually left-sided yung pleural effusion. So this is a chest x-ray showing you pleural effusion in the left. So there is homogeneous opacity in the area of the left lower lobe with meniscus sign in here. So this is suggestive of your pleural effusion in the left. Another example of your minimal pleural effusion in the right. As you can see, there is blunting of the claustrophenic angle in the right, suggestive of minimal pleural effusion. So in here, in the first image, lateral X-ray view, showing you a blunted posterior costophrenic sulcus in here, suggestive also of your minimal or small pleural effusion. In comparison to your normal lateral chest x-ray, showing you sharp angles. Okay, there's no blunting of your posterior costophrenic sulcus, unlike the first image, which shows minimal pleural effusion. So in your normal lateral chest x-ray, you will see sharp angles, okay, in the posterior costophrenic sulcus. So this is your normal lateral chest x-ray. So in cases of large pleural effusion, in here in the right hemithorax, you will see a large pleural effusion, almost obscuring the right hemithorax. Okay, so there is a large pleural effusion in the right, homogeneous opacification of the right hemithorax with meniscus sign in here. So this is an example of your large pleural effusion. Then upon lateral decubitus, so this is your blunting of the left costophrenic sulcus in the left. Okay, so it is indicative of your pleural effusion. Maybe minimal pleural effusion, but it is suggestive of pleural effusion, and sometimes it is a thickening, pleural thickening. And after lateral decubitus, this is a frontal chest x-ray, and after a lateral decubitus, you will see air fluid leveling in the left hemithorax, so it is suggestive of pleural effusion. Okay, so your lateral decubitus is being done when the patient is lying on his right or left side, depending on the laterality or the location of your pleural effusion. So if the pleural effusion in your frontal chest x-ray is seen in the left, so when the patient did the lateral decubitus, so it will be on the left side of the patient will lie on his left side, and then after a few minutes, x-ray will be done and it will present with air fluid leveling suggestive of your pleural effusion. Okay, so this is your lateral decubitus. And then pleural effusion in supine patient, it will cause the pleural effusion layers posteriorly in a supine position. So imagine the patient in supine position having pleural effusion. So the fluid will go to the dependent side, which will cause diffuse increased density in the area or in the area of the pleural effusion. So like in this area, there is increased diffuse increased density in the left hemithorax, probably suggestive of your pleural effusion. So the patient is in supine position, so the fluid will go to the dependent level, so it will produce diffuse increased density in the affected region, or in this case, in your left hemithorax. So after CT scan, in axial view, this is your pleural effusion. So since the patient is in lying or in supine position, so the fluid goes to the dependent side, which is in this area, the posterior region. So the fluid goes in the posterior region of the patient since the patient is in supine position. So this is the example of your pleural effusion in your CT scan axial view. So kapag na Hounsfield unit natin yan, it will the Hounsfield unit is fluid density. Okay, so that's your pleural effusion. So the next is the pneumothorax. So it results from air entering the pleural space. Kung yung pleural effusion is your fluid, kapag pneumothorax naman is air. So it can be traumatic or spontaneous, and it can also be sudden onset of dyspnea, and it will present sudden onset of dyspnea and pleuritic chest pain kapag may presence of pneumothorax. So again, kapag pleural effusion, fluid yung nag-accumulate. Kapag pneumothorax naman, air yung nag-accumulate sa pleural space. So pneumothorax, so this is an example of your pneumothorax. So this is the collapse lang. So kapag dito lang sa area na to, okay, may mga percentage siya. Kapag dito, 25%. Then kapag mas nasa medial region, so magiging 50%, and then 75%, and then 100%. Kapag gano'n, nagkakaroon ng collapse lang. So ito na lang yung area ng lung parenchyma na tutulak because of the air, significant amount of air in the pleural space, which is your pneumothorax. Okay, so this is your parietal pleura, and this is the area of your visceral pleura, and this is where your pleural space, which the potential space for the accumulation of air and fluid. Okay, so in upright radiograph, there is a presence of non-dependent lucency that parallels the chest wall and displaces the visceral pleural line medially. Okay, so natutulak yung visceral pleural line papunta sa medial region. And then in supine, it can be undetectable as air in the pleural space rises non-dependently and creates indiscernible increased lucency over the lower thorax and upper abdomen. Okay, so this is an example of your pneumothorax. So here's the area of your parietal pleura, and this is the area of your visceral pleura. And in the presence of significant amount of air in the pleural space, so your visceral pleura, it is compressed or natutulak siya medially. Okay, so this is your pneumothorax, absence of, there is hyperlucency with absence of pulmonary vascular markings. So that's your pneumothorax. So again, this is the area of your lungs. Okay, ito yung visceral pleura, and then this is the area of your lungs. So na-collapse na siya or natulak na siya papunta sa medial because of the significant amount of air in your pleural space. This is your pneumothorax. Another example of pneumothorax. So after inspiration or inspiratory radiography, so this is the area of your pneumothorax, air in the pleural space. So again, this is the parietal pleura, and this is the visceral pleura. Okay, this is the collapsed area of the lung. And then expiratory radiograph, so after a maximal expiration, so the X-ray is being done, and then it will present with this one in cases of your pneumothorax. So there is a hyperlucent area in the right hemithorax with absence of lung marking. So this is your pneumothorax. So this is the collapsed lung. Okay, so maybe this will be 75 to 100% of pneumothorax. So, and then in left lateral decubitus, so magkakaroon ng aangat yung air dun sa area. Okay, so di ba kapag naka-upright, so yung air pupunta dun sa katulad ng sinabi natin dito, there's a non-dependent lucency. So like dito sa ating left lateral decubitus, kapag nakatagilid yung patient, so aangat yung air. So ito yung ating area ng pneumothorax. So again, this is the visceral pleura, and then the parietal pleura, and then here is your potential space, which is your pleural space where your air and fluid accumulate. So what are the signs of pneumothorax on supine radiographs? First, there is a hyperlucent upper abdomen. So this one is your supine radiographs in your supine radiographs. So there is the presence of hyperlucent upper abdomen, particularly on the right over the normally dense liver. Then there is your deep sulcus sign, the double diaphragm sign, the epicardial fat pad sign for the left pneumothorax, because your pericardial fat pad or epicardial fat pad is usually seen in your left pneumothorax. And then unusually sharp heart border. So this one is your epicardial fat pad sign, presence of a left-sided pneumothorax. So as you can see, there is hyperlucency in this area, and your epicardial fat pad is displaced laterally in here. So this is your epicardial fat pad. It displaced laterally because of this pneumothorax in the left. So this is a nice, but this is a rare sign of pneumothorax on your supine chest X-ray. So again, the pericardial fat pad displaces laterally as the lung is no longer adjacent to it, pushing it against your mediastinum. So hence causing a lumpy appearance of the cardiac borders. Okay, so this is your left-sided pneumothorax. And then your deep sulcus sign, which is also a sign of pneumothorax in supine patient. So it represents lucency of the lateral claustrophrenic angle extending toward the hypochondrium. So here's your deep sulcus sign. Kapag may hyperlucency sa area na yan, so that's your deep sulcus sign, which is sign of your pneumothorax in a supine patient. The abnormally deepened lateral claustrophrenic angle may have a sharp angular appearance. So again, this is an example of your deep sulcus sign. Another example in your supine radiograph of the chest. So this is your deep sulcus sign in the left and deep sulcus sign in the right. So it is indicative of your pneumothorax. So This one, again, another example, a hyperlucent upper quadrant with visualization of the superior surface of the diaphragm and visualization of the inferior vena cava. Okay, so there is a hyperlucent area in the upper quadrant. Okay, this is your double diaphragm sign. Again, hyperlucent siya. Okay, also indicative of your pneumothorax. So there is air in the right hemithorax, which displaces both the dome, okay, both the dome and the anterior claustrophenic angle in this patient with a large right-sided pneumothorax. This is your double diaphragm sign. There's also a deep sulcus sign in here. Okay, so this is another example of your pneumothorax in supine view. There is unusually sharp border, heart border in this area. Also a sign of your pneumothorax in supine patient. Unusually sharp heart border. In CT scan, it will present like this, coronal and eggshell view. So there's a large area of pneumothorax in here in the left and also in here. Okay, so hyperlucent. That's an example of your pneumothorax in your CT scan, coronal and eggshell view. So we have types of pneumothorax also, the simple and the tension pneumothorax. So yung simple pneumothorax, there's no shift of the heart or mediastinal structures. Air in the left hemithorax balances the air in the right hemithorax. So that's your simple pneumothorax. No shift and there is balances between the left and right hemithorax. While your tension pneumothorax naman, ito yung mas worse. So most often from iatrogenic trauma in mechanically ventilated patients. It results from check valve pleural defect that allows air to enter but not exit the pleural space. Okay, so nag-accumulate yung air. And then complete collapse of underlying lung and impairing venous return. Respiratory function severely compromised. So kapag pneumothorax, this is emergency. And the involved hemithorax is expanded and hyperlucent, medially retracted lung, ipsilateral diaphragmatic depression, or inversion and contralateral mediastinal shift. So kapag tension pneumothorax, no, so this is emergency. So there is mediastinal shift. Okay, so again, may mga hyperlucent region sa tension pneumothorax dun sa area of the affected lungs. There is medially retracted lung, ipsilateral diaphragmatic depression or inversion. And again, there is contralateral mediastinal shift in your tension pneumothorax. So this is an example of your tension pneumothorax. As you can see, there is a hyperlucent area in the right. So this is the area na lang ng ating collapse lang. Ito na siya. And then, ang laki ng area ng pneumothorax. And then, as you can see, there is mediastinal shift towards the contralateral side. So, nagkaroon ng, natulak na yung mediastinal structure towards your contralateral side. So, this is the example of your pneumothorax or of your tension pneumothorax. And this is a medical emergency. So, this is the area of your collapsed lung, collapsed right lung. Okay, so again, this is the area of your pneumothorax. Significant pneumothorax with mediastinal shift. Tracheal deviation. And it requires that chest tube. Okay, kailangan masabihan na kagad yung clinician para makapag chest tube na dun sa patient to release the air. And then we also have this focal pleural disease, localized pleural thickening, pleural calcification, and pleural mass. So yung localized pleural thickening, it is from fibrosis, nagkaroon ng previous infection, and then nagkaroon ng fibrosis. So the end result of parenchymal and pleural inflammatory disease with pneumonia is the most common cause, and sometimes tuberculosis. Okay, kapag after ng pneumonia, nag-heal, so nag-present ng fibrosis. And then nagkakaroon din ng pleural thickening like in this left pleural thickening, apical pleural thickening. So it usually from fibrosis from previous inflammatory disease of the patient. And then there is pleural calcification. This one naman is most often unilateral. It involves your visceral pleura. So kapag pleural calcification, it involves the visceral rather than your parietal pleura. It results from prior hemothorax or empyema, and it presents as punctate to sheet-like. So minsan napakaliliit lang na calcification, punctate lang, but it can also present with sheet-like like this one. Okay, type of calcification. Again, it involves your visceral pleura. So it results from your prior hemothorax or empyema. So yan yung mga cause ng ating pleural calcification. So another example of your pleural calcification, again, involves your visceral pleura. Okay, so again, it may present with sometimes punctate or sheet-like appearances like this one. And then pleural mass. It is usually benign neoplasm kapag pleural mass. It can be thoracic lipoma, subpleural lipomas, which produce pleural mass and can change in shape during respiration or with changes in position. Okay, in CT scan, it is homogeneous fat attenuation, -30 to -100 Hounsfield unit. Okay, so in CT scan, you will see it like this one, with fat attenuation of -30 to -100 Hounsfield unit. It is your pleural mass in your CT scan axial view and your X-ray view, and sorry, in your X-ray PA or AP view. So this is your pleural mass. So usually it is a benign neoplasm, sometimes thoracic lipomas or subpleural lipomas. And then the diffuse pleural disease, it represents diffuse pleural fibrosis, pleural malignancy, or multiloculated pleural effusion. So these are the types of your pleural disease, diffuse pleural disease. And then the fibrothorax, it presents with diffuse pleural fibrosis. So meron na tong prior inflammatory disease sa right hemithorax or sa right lung. There's pleural thickening extending over more than 1/4 of the costal pleural surface. So this is your pleural thickening in here. It results from resolution of an exudative pleural effusion, empyema, or hemothorax. So nagkaroon na ng pathology sa area na yan, kaya nag-result siya to pleural thickening. Okay? So that's your fibrothorax, and it can encompass the entire lung and produce entrapment. Okay, so your fibrothorax, it is your diffuse pleural fibrosis with pleural thickening from prior resolution of your pleural effusion, empyema, or hemothorax. So it will present like this. So nagkakaroon ng fibrothorax. So part of your parenchymal healing. So again, it can encompass the entire lung and produce entrapment. Okay, so in comparison to the left lung ng patient, so mas maganda yung left lung niya compare niya sa right, because itong right niya meron na tong mga previous infection na after ng healing nag-result to your fibrothorax like this one. So again, another example of your fibrothorax in the right. Okay, and also in here in the left side. Then pleural malignancy. So usually metastatic disease to the pleura, irregular or nodular pleural thickening, usually associated with pleural effusion, adenocarcinomas of the lung, breast, ovary, kidney, and GIT. And then we have the malignant mesothelioma, which is seen almost exclusively in asbestos-exposed individual. So usually kapag malignancy sa pleura, it is a metastatic disease from adenocarcinoma of the lung, breast, ovary, kidney, and GIT. So this is an example of your malignancy in your pleura. Okay, so usually metastatic nasa pleural area. And then last topic is the diaphragm. So we have the esophageal hiatal hernia, Bokdelek hernia, and Mergagni. Okay, so kapag sa diaphragmatic hernia, we have these three, the hiatal hernia, Bokdelek, and Mergag. So first is the esophageal hiatal hernia. So this is the most common, and it represents herniation of a portion of the stomach through the esophageal hiatus. So nagkaroon ng defect sa area ng diaphragm, so nagpunta dun sa area ng thorax, yung bowel. So esophagram is confirmatory. So in here, in this image, this is a fluoroscopy. It's the area of the esophagus, and this is the herniated bowel. Stomach. This one is the stomach. Dilated stomach filled with barium in the chest. So umakyat yung stomach. Okay, portion of the stomach, not the bowel pala, rather. Okay, so there is herniation of your portion of the stomach to the esophageal hiatus, papunta dun sa area ng thorax. Okay, this is the dilated stomach filled with barium in the bowel, in the chest. Okay, so this is the area of your bowel, and this is the area of the chest or the thorax. So nagkaroon ng defect sa area ng diaphragm, umakyat yung area ng dilated stomach. Okay, again, this is your esophageal hiatal hernia, which is the most common diaphragmatic hernia. So another example, seen as a mass projecting behind the heart, okay, in here, on frontal chest radiographs, in the immediate subdiaphragmatic region of the posterior mediastinum. Air fluid level may be seen in the hernia. Okay, so this one, air fluid leveling. So this is your hiatal hernia. This is your dilated stomach na nag-protrude or nagpunta dun sa ating thorax region. Air fluid level. In CT scan, it shows widening of the esophageal hiatus and depicts the contents of the hernia sac, which often includes stomach, omental fat, and rarely acidic fluid. Okay, so in this area, there is herniation of the stomach to your thorax. In CT scan, axial view and coronal view. Okay, so that's an example also of your hiatal hernia. And then the Bokdalek hernia. So defect in the hemidiaphragm at the side of the embryonic pleuroperitoneal canal and predominantly seen on the left side kapag Bokdalek hernia and the left side typically appears as posterolateral mass above the left hemidiaphragm. So makikita natin may mga bowel sa area na yan. So that's your Bokdalek hernia. So hindi dapat tayo makakita ng bowel sa thorax, of course. Pero in this patient, merong bowel sa area ng thorax. That's your hernia. May defect sa left hemidiaphragm. Kaya nagkaroon ng protrusion or protrusion ng ating bowel dun sa left hemithorax. Again, it typically appears as posterolateral mass above the left hemidiaphragm. This one naman, CT scan, sagittal, coronal, and axial, showing you a diaphragmatic defect with herniation of the retroperitoneal fat, omentum, spleen, or kidney. Okay, so this is your sagittal view, your coronal view, which you will see herniation of the retroperitoneal fat, omentum in this region, and also in your axial CT scanning. So that's the area of your Bokdalek hernia in CT scan. And then the Wargagni hernia. It is the least common type of diaphragmatic hernia. Invariably right-sided, it appears as a cardiophrenic angle mass. So kapag Wargagni, usually dito siya sa right side. Appears as a cardiophrenic angle mass. It presence of omental vessels within a fatty pericardiac mass is diagnostic. Okay, so mas ma-appreciate natin yung laterality syempre sa ating EP view. And in lateral view, this is the herniated omental sac or maybe bowel in the right. Okay, so this is the area of your Margagni hernia. And then in CT scan, this is your axial and coronal view. As you can see, there is a herniation of the omental fat in this area of the right thorax, hemithorax, which is diagnostic for your Margagni hernia. Okay, so that's all for your pleura and diaphragm. Thank you.